We're hot? We call this meeting to order today, July 30th, 3 o'clock. Mr. Ellis is going to give us the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we praise your holy and wonderful name, Lord. I praise your wonderful name. I pray that we'll all come together today to do some good for Sumner County and be agreeable on the things that are best for Sumner County, Lord. I pray that you'll bless everyone here and their families. I pray that you'll help us to be great servants to this county. All these things I ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you. So before you have the agenda, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have an agenda. Would anyone of the public like to speak? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from June 5th, 2025.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Minutes approved. So, the report of the chairman, I have nothing to report today. Report of the mayor.
No report, Madam Chairman.
Report of the law director.
I'll reserve any statements for questions you may have further on.
Thank you, sir. Report of the trustee. I know we have the trustees' reports from May and June in front of us. If you could just give us a brief summary of how we're doing and how much money we have. Excellent.
Motion to approve.
No, we collected over 97% of the 24 taxes. Fantastic.
You have any-
Cut off for that.
Oh, we keep them in the office until March 31st of 26, before they're turned over to Chancery.
So that for the 25 collections, you voted to 26.
Yes. So it's all the way that it's set up.
How does the 97% compare to, say, previous years?
I think we might be up just a little bit from the prior year. I'd have to go back. I didn't have time to run it.
Okay.
But I think we're right there, or maybe just a little above.
Anything the trustee's office needs?
Well, let's see.
Space.
Space.
Second roughly with that.
No, I think we're okay right now. I've got to get another quote on our drive-through. Getting that replaced from where the truck caught on fire. But other than that, we should be geared up, ready to go.
Excellent. Any other questions from trustee? Thank you, Madam Trustee. The report of the finance director.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The first item is the personnel policy, and I'm going to have Ms. Allison to pass out the existing personnel policy. And the changes that me and Mr. Isabel worked on and was reviewed by the law director do not change any benefits or change the way we're currently operating. It just does clarification and removes some inconsistencies and problems in the existing policy. And I'll go through each change with the new one and the old one, and the reason we feel the change needs to be made. Those are later, we just folded those in. Everybody has the new one. It's got a nice little new cover on it. And then the first,
It looks very nice.
thank you, we got all the staff work on it. It's got a nice index. On page 8, if you notice, anything in yellow is new, and I'll go through the old one for things that were just completely deleted that were else incorrect or redundant. On page 2, if you look at the first two classifications, they're just brand new sections. Some things were moved in there and some for clarifications, and I'll go into more detail when we get into that area. Page number 4 is the first item. Your existing personnel policy did not have anything for severability, so if by court or for some other reason, one point in this policy is considered illegal or for some other issue, it did not state that everything else would stay in place. Talking to Mr. Isabel and the law director, we think that's a very important item to have in your personnel policy. The next page just goes into the divisions, and a lot of these are already existing in your policy. We're just moved into new sections. Your full-time was moved completely, the first bullet point, the full and part-time was moved completely the same out of the old policy except for, let me pull the page. Except for if you look on the old policy on page number 6, there was a statement on full and part-time that says, in addition to the designation of full and part-time is not guaranteed on the basis of the minimum number of hours, your TCRS and your health insurance are based on that. So after the last changes and talking to legal, we don't feel that's actually true anymore, that needed to be completely struck, and it's struck out of the new recommendation. Coming into your next section, that's your full and part-time, your first 2 bullet points. Your old personnel policy did not really state that exempt salary people did not earn overtime or comp time explicitly. It did not explicitly state that non-exempt did earn those items. And it also did not go in to say that any employee had to be salaried and which employees were salaried or not salaried. So that section right there is taking sections from the other and actually define that exempt employees do not earn overtime and non-exempt do. And it also states how exempt versus non-exempt employees are going to be determined. That's currently how we do it. You can go into the old policy and interpret it that way, but it's very hard to interpret it that way. But that's the way the old interpretation was from legal. The next section, if you go on down into it, is the work week. Point A is exactly the same as the old work week. Point B is exactly the same. Point C and D is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is if you go to the old personnel policy on page 6, bullet point under A, it says work week. Point 2 was completely removed because it says the county pays full-time non-exempt employees a weekly amount consisting of an hourly rate multiplied by the total scheduled hours each week. That is not true if an employee earns overtime, so that's actually a false statement. And was actually unnecessary because it's defined under exempt versus non-exempt. Then if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5th statement, it also, at that point, the next 3 points are actually, number 1, the first one, if your hours worked more than the scheduled total will be additional compensation or compensation time as appropriate. It does not tell what's appropriate. And it's also covered under overtime, so it's actually, it's a gray area and it's redundant. Is covered under overtime. The next 2 items were completely removed because once we add these few areas in your overtime, they're actually covered in overtime and they're a repeat. And if you're not careful when you do repeats, sometimes you contradict yourself. They were completely removed. Going back to the new policy, if you look at payroll cycles, that's a new section, but those 2 bullet points were actually up under another. They were just moved down to that section. There's no real change. On page number 6. You look at payroll cycle, 1 and 2 were just moved down. And if you go into overtime, you can see all the yellow where we put in because it talked about overtime, but nowhere did it say that non-exempt employees were not eligible for overtime nor compensatory time. The problem you get into is if you're doing compensatory time with the understanding if you don't work all your hours and you get deducted, you're not paying somebody on a salary. So that's something you need to be clear about. If you're paying somebody as an exempt employee, they have to be on a salary, and you have to deduct their deduction for full and partial days and all that rule. So that's what that tells us on this policy. That's what your old one does not.
David, let me ask you on exempt and non-exempt, just so I'm clear. The exempt employees, do they turn in their time?
The way we're working exempt is 2 different. That's probably a prime example. If you are an hourly employee, then what you do is you got your time sheet. It shows each hour work, you earn compensatory time, you get above the balance, you get paid overtime, more overtime. If you are a exempt employee, you turn yours in, but it's payroll by exception. So if you're not working any that day, or that you're using vacation or sick time. If, say for instance, you run out of sick or vacation, if you work 2 hours that day, there's rules about deductions from exempt employees other than when they quit or start. So at that point, the long-standing rule before any deductions are made to exempt employees, we always go to legal and make sure we're following those rules because you can completely wipe out those exemptions. Your new policy says that to pay an employee, 1, they have to meet one of the exemptions, executive, administrative, or one of those. Number 2, the department has to pay the person on a salary basis. And And number three, they have to meet the salary requirement, the minimum salary. Your old policy doesn't say that, it kind of roundabout a lot.
All right, question two, what about comp time, for example?
Exempt employees are not on comp time, they do not track comp time. So if you are a non-exempt, you can track comp. If you are an exempt employee, you do not track comp time. You basically, if you're taking the full day off, you take the full sick or vacation day off.
Let's just say you had an employee that worked a lot of overtime, not necessarily technically overtime, but put a lot of hours in on a particular project.
Right.
And Toby or Mayor said, hey, why don't you take half a day off Fridays?
If they're an exempt employee and they're working 40 hours and they're not taking a full day off, they should not be using sick or vacation, they should count it as 40 hours. As an exempt employee. Now, if they're an hourly employee.
No, I get that. So I'm talking about an exempt employee that's
Right.
going beyond Call of Duty and working a lot of overtime or after hours. Do they have the flexibility to allow them to work? Okay.
Yeah, the way it works right now is your exempt employees are lead by section. It pre-populates you 8 an hour. So me is a prime example. Mine says 8 Monday, but I got here about a little before 8, took an hour lunch, and I was here by 12:30. So mine says 8. So think about it. The next day, I came in at 9 and left at 4:30. I didn't take a full day off, but I'm going to make 40 hours for my week, so I don't take it to vacation. That's the way I always follow the rule. That's the way
Mine is more, not if you make the 40, I'm talking about if you work more than 40.
If you work more than 40 as an exempt employee, you just
I think the safest, if I may, the safest way to respond to that would be whoever they report to would have direct control, and any modifications to how their time's being reported would be done by that person. Meaning, if they weren't showing up to work and needed to adjust it down, it would take them to do that. If they're giving them time off, no one's going to know any different unless the person that's over them makes a reporting statement on their payroll.
But we don't track comp because you're making a promise they're getting paid.
Now, I understand the technical components, but does that work for you guys? I mean,
That's the way it is right now. Yeah. That's the way it works now, except your current system doesn't say anybody's paid on the salary. To be an exempt employee, one of the requirements is to be paid on a salary basis. And that's the biggest problem you've got on your current policy, plus it doesn't tell who's salary or not. When you read it around about talking to Ms. Bennett, even talking to the law director, it's really, in essence, up to the official, as long as it meets federal law. If it meets the exemption, you're keeping them on a salary, they meet the minimum, you can put them on as a exempt employee, not to have overtime. But if I've got somebody who would be eligible for exemption, but I decide to keep them hourly, they still go into a non-exemption. But that's what's happening now, that's what this policy says. The other one could be read that way, but it could potentially be interpreted that department heads earn overtime the way the old ones read.
yeah, so just to close it out, my I guess question is to make sure that our elected officials have the flexibility to, take care of an employee they work, Call of Duty. It's not so rigid that we can't take care of even our exempt employees that work hard.
What I would recommend is if you have an exempt employee and you think they're going to be working a lot of hours the whole time and you've got the money in your overtime that's built in, for accountability, you can run those hourly employees. Just by saying they're an hourly, or number two, just like we are, if you're making your 40 hours a week and you're not taking full days off, don't take sick vacation. You earn 40 hours there.
Just the final point. To your point, I see where you're going, because with my private practice is exactly that. If there's work to be done, I expect you to be there. If there's not, do what you need to do. So in this instance, there's not going to be a change, positive or negative, unless the person they report to tells, or through Kronos or tells finance, says, hey, there needs to be a change.
There's leads.
So they're going to be operating within their world however they want to, because they're the ones that are going to make the change.
Okay. Because it's lead by exception when you go into the exempt employee. So, you see as soon as you work 8 hours, unless you take vacation. If for some reason the employee's not performing, that's more of an exempt for some other, because you usually don't do deduction on exempt employees. Unless it's full days are not working, they got no vacation.
So in theory, if you have an employee that's working beyond Call of Duty, they get paid their 40 hours unless they don't show up. The manager or the supervisor can go in and deduct those hours. But if they put in 50 hours and it's Friday at 12 o'clock, and the boss says, hey, once you knock off for the day, you're good.
They've already heard it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not taking.
The argument, you've got two things saving you. One is they've already met the threshold, and the second is no one's gonna know any different but for their supervisor, direct line, telling finance that we got a problem here.
Another question is partial day deduction, what are you doing there? So I would recommend if they work their 40 and they leave at noon, maybe work the part, you don't take out time. That's their recommendation or understanding, which is the way it should be. Now, if you want accountability, there's nothing to prevent you from putting them on an hourly basis. A lot of offices do that because you got them to work long. By and large, most of our offices have their employees on hourly basis other than department heads. You have a few like the assistant law director, the county engineer, most of the people, and I have some project managers are on an hourly basis. Because in the ways now, if you put them on hourly, you can't get in trouble. The other way around, you can lose all your money. You got to perfectly make them.
And there's requirements as well.
You got to meet. And currently it doesn't say if you put somebody exempt, you make them on a salary basis or any of those things. Your current policy doesn't spell out to make somebody exempt, you have to follow those rules. The next page 6 is just spelling out, compensations are only for exempt. Page 7 is that you have to certify yours each time bi-weekly. That's the way it has to be done in the timekeeping system. That's the way it's done right now. That's the way it works. It was just incorrect. Page number 9, if anybody wants to see the amendment, that is the copy of amendment number 1 to the policy. So we folded the amendment in. We didn't change anything about it other than fold it in. But if you want to see copies of them, they're here to compare them. They're basically cut and paste. That's what we did on them. Page 10, nothing. There's a few more minor changes. Page number 19, the item on the birthday is amendment number 2. Yeah, page 19.
13.
I'm sorry, nothing. 13.
That's where it's in the
So
middle.
it's both 13 and
I'm sorry, let's go by the far right one, which is the number on your actual policy.
Yes.
Everybody's okay. I've been telling you this number here on the right of the policy. Eric was looking at that one, so let's just go by the policy numbers on the right. Should be printed on there.
That's the agenda.
Is that the, okay, let's go by the agenda number.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
13.
19's agenda.
No, 13's the agenda.
Let's go by
Oh,
19 the
is
policy.
it not now?
That was confusing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, one is the agenda number and one is the policy number.
13, aka 19.
Let's just go to the one in the small corner that I've been reading. This is called 19, which is kind of making it a moot point, but
I think we need to vote on this.
I'll just run along with the one on the far right. Birthday is a fold-in of what you have, except for we changed one thing. It used to say you could do it within 3 days of either direction, but I mentioned this to the mayor and he was good with it. What happens if it's 3 directions either way? We're doing year-end, or the mayor has a huge project you really need to have an employee do, you really want to make them full if it's a birthday at the request of the official, or at a later date approved by the responsible official. Our feeling was you probably need that for the office. Juneteenth, I have highlighted in yellow. It's been observed since Juneteenth came about a couple of years ago, but we've never added it to the list. So it needs to be added to the list.
And just for the record, I'd say the commission voted to add Juneteenth. Not, it's just observed, but
Right.
they voted, it was a
They voted to
resolution.
observe, but it never got as an official.
Exactly.
amendment, so
Just for the
we
record.
voted.
It was voted.
Yes, ma'am, it is authorized, but it's not in your policy anywhere at this point. And then on page number, the one on the right, page number 32, this is one that, if you see all the yellowing on there, what's happened over the years is many employees have signed this compensatory agreement, without all the yellow in it. Basically what it's saying is that you and the county have an agreement to give you comp time for anything over 40. That is not the county's intent, so the yellow, the first thing it says, official responsible for this department, please check the box you're going to do. So if they've done all the requirements, if number one, they check the box, this employee is not exempt, therefore all the following apply, which would be your compensatory. The next box is if it's an exempt employee, you check it and they're not eligible for overtime or compensatory time. And you've done all the other steps earlier in your policy, and then you and the employee sign it, and you have an understanding at this point. The employee knows, are they an hourly employee, they know if they're an exempt employee, and they know if they're in comp or overtime. Because we had an issue with that because everybody's been signing it.
I have a discussion point if you're finished with this explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
So with this, I understand you've updated this. Did we had a sheet before, or is this, we had a sheet, it just needed to be updated?
Yes, ma'am, you can look here, and you can look in the back of this one we just handed out, the second from the back. The verbiage is the same, except for we want you to check if it's eligible to the employee or not, as the, because your responsible official is going to determine if
Yes.
the employee is exempt or not. We want them to determine that and check the box where we say, hey, you're not eligible or you are eligible.
Is it your intent that we do this going forward, or that we go back and recapture everyone?
I think right now on the signature for the policy and this one, you probably need to go back and do a recapture.
I agree.
Because many people have had even exempt employees signing that, so they need to understand they're not eligible for compensatory time, just to clarify.
Can your office take care of organizing that and getting us a?
I think we added the resolution, just have everybody sign. We'll send an email, say, can you have your employees? We'll send an email copy after you have them sign the compensatory agreement and the agreement they understand it, because there's only, 182.
Can your office, organize getting a checklist to make sure everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
And then where will these forms be
They'll be in the personnel file, that's where we
stored in finance?
We store them in our personnel file, but we'll store them in everybody's if we get copies back. We have the finances, right, we'll start storing them. We receive them, we store them, we'll start storing them if we receive them. Well, we should probably just put it in the new hire, that's what me and Eric were talking about, but I'll talk to payroll about getting all that wiped away. And then the other issue, when this originally came up, was Mr. Hyde's concern, and I have a way to deal with it other than the manager policy. His concern was people had compensatory and vacation time that had balances that he didn't, there's no way to see it. Well, there is a way. We have to book those all on our balance sheet, and we have to have it done by August 31st. So in September, we can bring you a list of every employee and every comp or vacation dollar value out there, the way you do know what's out there.
How do you do comp? Do you do that monthly, or do you,
By pay, you have to do each payroll there.
so you've got numbers by payroll?
So what we do is if you are a non-exempt employee, and we're not giving you overtime, you earn comp. If you reach the 240, there's 1 or 2 rules. You quit working, we let you take the time off, we have to let you take it off, or we pay you out for it.
Mm-hmm.
So in finance, we build up hours, and when we're to the point where we have to, we pay out of our overtime line for compensatory time. We work a lot of overtime. But that's the way it should be working. The policy says you can't have over 240, that's wage an hour, that's when you need to pay out. You don't let your employees forfeit the hours. But Mr. Hyde's concern was that there was dollars out there and nobody knew about them. He just thinks for us to do is bring a listing, and I think probably best to bring a listing and hide the employee's name. It puts a dollar by department head. This is how much comp, this is how much vacation. And
Do you want to bring that to finance, to this committee, or you want to bring that to budget periodically?
I think it's more just for this committee to look at.
I think it is too.
And then if they have a concern,
Do y'all agree?
just ask the department, are you concerned you've got excess, do you need more money for overtime, or what's going on? Because a lot of people will not ask you for money, and they'll keep working comp time. We try to keep hours at a reasonable level, but certain times of the year, hours max out, and we have to start paying people out.
Can you bring that number to us next time?
Yes, ma'am. But I think this right here, working with the mayor, and it's been reviewed by our law director, it's our understanding that this does fix all the ambiguities, contradictions, and problems that we found in that personnel policy. Does not change the way we're currently operating, and does not change any benefits.
Thank you.
And I'm just asking to send it on to the commission for approval of those that move forward.
Oh, this is a really good job. I mean, I took the time to read through it, and, very comprehensive. Those are not easy to do. You've got to strike a balance in a lot of different areas, and, so nice, very nice work. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve and send it on to the commission.
Motion to approve. Second, anyone?
I'll second that.
The second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Send this on to the commission.
The item number 2, it starts on page 34, is a kind of a rough draft of a brochure we've got out for the committee to determine what they want to do. Since there's questions of the selection of the finance director, and I don't want to get into that, we can, if this is the will of the committee and the mayor, because he's a member here too, what we could do is go ahead and what you guys recommend is a group today, fix your brochure, post it out on these websites, and then every single respondent we get, we can send it to the committee members here if you guys want to vet through them. Or we can vet through and send you the good ones, or we can send them to a group, a subgroup of this, or a particulars of each one. The only thing I just need direction of how you want us to help you guys or help the mayor, which way you want to go. And your mayor's one of your full-time members, and the other one's the director of schools and the road superintendent, so it may be that you want the mayor to be your full-time point person no matter how it goes. It's my thought. No matter how you.
For
Orange.
transparency, because you know it'll be an issue. We can just send them all to the clerk, because she needs stuff.
Well, might if I send them all to the mayor, there's still be a trail that we're sending them
True.
to them. So if you make questions,
Want it to
then
go?
say,
I don't think we're gonna,
Can I,
issues of transparency here.
can I
No,
chime in
not
on
between
that?
us, I think the citizens.
I can assure you of that.
No, not between us, between different groups of citizens.
If I can chime in, please. I think this, just keeping it as limited as possible. We can't get out of FOIA requests, however, this minimizes the attempts at requests and it keeps the people's information, as contained as possible so y'all can make a decision before people start using our list to achieve their goals in another municipality or county.
Oh,
maybe better.
see that.
My thoughts for
A
us.
lot of these applicants will like to keep those as private as long as possible.
So that's my
They
thought.
just don't, if they're moving from another county, another city or whatever, they may not want that county to know they're
I
moving.
understand.
If
Yeah,
they're just in the
I've seen
consideration.
that, yeah.
So my thought is we receive them, give them to the mayor, he's your full-time appointment, he brings back probably your best candidate out of the group.
But
Maybe your best way to move forward, because otherwise these candidates may not apply for that reason.
And I see also what the law director's suggesting, we keep it tight on a timetable so somebody else doesn't come in and get the applicant. So keep it tight.
Plus you may want me to pass as much stuff as I can. It's been discussed, I'm leaving at the end of October versus November, the very last day. So if you can get somebody in,
Yeah, if you're gonna glean his knowledge, now's the time.
and the question, if we can't, then I may need to make that a priority to pass as much knowledge as I can to Ms. Browning before the other person comes in, because I've got files that work for me that's huge, because you know what finance people do, they never get rid of anything. I don't think Ms. Browning or the next person's gonna wanna go through all my files trying to find things. Right now's the time for me to spend a significant amount of time with somebody gleaning the important stuff out of these files.
So we're gonna get this published. How long do you think it'd take it to get it, say we make the agreement today to do that? Take you a week, 2 weeks to get it out on all of these sites?
Let's just say if you get everything you want in your thing today, tomorrow I'll say, Ms. Browning, go back and find out how long it'll take us, we'll go ahead and send it to these places, see how long it'll take them to get it. The thing is, some of these charge you based on fixed amount, some of them charge you number of resumes, some charge how long you're gonna run them. So that's gonna be a big determination. How many do you wanna pull down? Because we have to pay for some of them to pull down, don't we, Bethany? Wasn't there a couple of them? Wasn't there one of the charges based on the number of respondents?
And I believe also, budget said we have to go back to budget again, because budget wasn't letting it go. Budget said they wanna know how much it costs before we advertise. If I'm not mistaken, that's what they said.
They mentioned that, so, but they're gonna meet next.
So, in
Either way,
2 weeks on the 11th.
So we'll need to get it on the budget agenda. And then if you're gonna have budget.
And then it has to go to the commission.
Well,
We're not
we may not have to go that far
I
yet.
know.
They budgeted, if
We
I
did.
stayed all the way to June for vacation payout for me, okay? There's gonna be plenty of money there if, I can't
I
move
can
the
make a
money, but
line item change.
the budget committee can do a line, so
And then still
from
need
this
to,
committee to budget would be as far as it would have to go.
I'm seeing here, God, $2,000 maybe?
Right.
they were very concerned.
Well, if nobody,
500, then 125.
It appeared that 5,000 was too much.
let's,
They were very considerate of cost.
if they're not objecting to it, then finance, we can move lines out of the other line items and then go to budget and transfer out of that vacation payout to cover it, but if they're objecting, I don't know, that's mine. I don't remember what the discussion was.
Let's, if finance wants it, let's run it through. I mean, that's all we can do.
I know. I was not in attendance that day, so.
I don't remember what they said, I don't know. Well, I can't move it from salary for that vacation, but I can move it out of something like, if they're fine with it, out of office supplies, put it down here, or use our advertisement for bids for now, we go ahead and do it. And then we have lots of money up there in that vacation, I could just move it down rather than move it down. If everybody's fine with it, I don't know. There was a discussion about doing advertisement, it was in one of the budget hearings, and we were asking for it, I don't remember the final discussion on it, to be honest, I can't remember.
I think they said something like they wanted to know how much it would cost before we did anything.
Let's put it on the budget agenda. John put it on the budget agenda, we'll show on this spreadsheet that I'm assuming Beth put together. And then we'll just get their approval and please be prepared to push everything out as quickly as the commission approves it.
Well, do you want
It should just go to budget because we can take it out of that vacation money.
We won't have to go to full commission?
No, because right now,
I say we.
I'm not staying, I'm leaving, October 31st. What's budgeted in your, budget is if I stayed to June, because we didn't know at the time, so there's gonna be extra money there. More than enough to pull down to cover this advertisement.
So, okay, so now we're looking at starting the process on the second Tuesday of this month.
the 11th.
August,
The 11th.
which means we will probably, I mean, we need to run it a month.
I agree. And you want to keep running it until we find someone.
Right. But yeah, at least a month, get at least an initial time frame and see what applications we get. Because at some point, if we don't get applications locally within this net that we cast, we need to come back together and say, can we cast it wider? I'm hoping this net's good enough. So, but what we're also considering is if we start taking applications immediately, at what point do we cut those off? We say we cut it off at 10 applications, 2 applications. Do we run it for?
I don't think we cut until we have a person.
I look at some of the advertisements, they say this one, because I've been looking at them, and it says, will be open until filled, but first comes filled, so it may be filled quickly, kind of puts an urgency, but doesn't say you're gonna close it. I think that kind of verbiage, that may help you out, that way it'll push the people quicker, but it won't cut off if you have a good candidate.
What I'd like is, yeah, is maybe something, a deadline with the ability to extend that deadline if we need to. But these candidates need to know there's a deadline. It can't be an open.
Some that say, first applications will be reviewed or due by a certain date, and give an indication that there may not be a second.
I would hate to discourage the second round if there was that. If like, let's say there's an ideal candidate, but then we're set, so we close the door, and then they say, oh, you know what, my wife said, or my husband said, I'm not moving, sorry, and our doors.
Just to interject, if just simply putting that applications or resumes will be accepted pending filling of the position, I think that might be your safest route, because that'll get everybody motivated. They don't know a timeline, so they're going to get it in as quick as they can. And the second thing is you're not stopping it at any time either. And the people that may have been prospects don't know that there's a timeline and will send stuff after the fact, where some people may reach the timeline and just not send anything. So I think a deadline might be a problem for you, especially with the urgency that we have now.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that. Rest of the members?
Okay, so that's the game plan following budget's approval.
And,
We'll put a transfer out to take it out of vacation.
and then I'd like to discuss the next step that we need to probably prepare for, and that's the contract, because we're not giving them Mr. Lawrence contract. I think we all know that. So we need to, if legal could get us some contracts or samples of contracts, because we need to get ahead of that before it's upon us.
I think Eric's department would be the appropriate department to start the draft, and that gives us something to review. Would you review that here?
If possible, could you reach out to similar sized counties and see what their contracts look like, so that we can all have something to look at?
Some have them and some don't.
I'm an attorney, I always cheat off other people.
So,
Thank you.
your contract says two minutes.
Appreciate it.
To be honest, some have contracts and some don't. The contracts has benefits and pitfalls.
So, okay, I understand. So that is what we need to consider, is if we want an employee or a contract.
Well, a contract, it'll be an employee, but it'll be an employee with.
Let's send,
I'll be honest with you, I'm not a contract person.
let's send him out to drop a contract, and we'll all think about it and talk about it next time.
There's
Do
good and
that.
bad.
So you good?
Not,
That
not
idea?
required, but it does two things. One, it may attract you a better candidate, and number two is say they come down here and somebody else eyes are a good candidate, you may lock them in a couple of years and they won't move.
Well, I don't mind.
Bad candidate too.
Yeah, well, shit,
I don't mind drafting one for y'all to have ready, but, that can be a condition, that can be a negotiation condition there. So y'all can either do it or don't do it. You don't have to decide now.
Thank you.
They come both directions, but your big one is to make sure you get what you want to offer. One's the salary, and I've had some feedback, maybe the, bottom few points or two remedial and all that stuff. That's really what you need to review. Is the brochure to see if you want us to change pictures, format, requirements, see what you want to do on it before we post it on out.
The only thing I would like to, in reading through this, is on page 34, agenda page 34, at the bottom, other duties as required by state law, private acts, or assigned by the county commission. I'd like to add in there, or as assigned by the office of the county mayor or the county commission. County commission can make assignments by resolution, obviously, but day-to-day operations, we need to be able to have that communication with the finance department.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not, like, thinking of opposing that, but I wonder how many duties the finance, director also has from other elected officials. That, I'm not, like, belittling, I'm just saying I want him to service everybody.
Yeah.
And I know that you do a good job of that, Mr. Long, answering the phone when they call and stuff, and, I mean, I'd like to recognize that for all of it. I want him to serve all the departments, but I don't know how to.
You remember, you're trying to get the person here. We can, if you do a contract, we can get all that roped into the contract.
I think we don't have to get bogged down too much on this. It's more of a statement, but, really it's gonna be ironed out if we do a contract.
I think
We can work on that.
this has so much verbiage, and I understand you were covering all the bases, but I almost feel like it's too much.
So who does this person report to? Who's the manager?
Under the 12 and the 81, all it really states is that the financial director will basically fill policies. That's all, there's no real reporting.
So,
And so when I first came here, the very first year, we were under the 2002, and it said for day-to-day under the contract, my contract answer to the mayor. Well, the commissioners, several of them didn't like that, so they put that I would confer with the mayor. Well, they didn't like that, so it was completely removed. So the way it sits right now is they're kind of like one of the appointed offices that answers to fill policies and laws. The 81s, very similar, it says policies. Under the 12, the termination of the finance director, if you don't have a contract, requires a 30-day notice and a 2/3 vote. I think under the 81, I'd have to go back and look at required recommendation of this committee and the majority vote in the commission, I believe. But I'd have to look back and see. So it's kind of a question.
Just historically, if you have somebody like that, there's really no accountability to anybody. I'm not sure you're setting them up for success here, or the county up for failure if you don't have somebody accountable, whether it's the mayor or somebody. I just don't think people need to roam around not having accountability. And not that you abuse that, but.
Well, they'll get, the big one is if they're not doing their job, they'll get terminated by the committee or the commission. Well, that's a big thing, but I understand what you're saying.
The parties change, they change every year. The mayor is in for a while, they're elected officials. I mean, they're here every day, they see that person. I just think we need to make that person accountable to somebody that's an elected official. And probably the right choice is the mayor.
Because he's here every day as the.
But we can't change the private act that
You
Mr. Long
can
just
do
said.
it by contract. contract.
by contract.
That's what I'm saying, when my
That's
first
exactly
one,
where I'm going, is about contract, you can do that.
so my first contract started out as 2 and then made it 3. So initially it was from day to day, I'll answer to the mayor and the county commission, which was kind of unusual. Then they made it, I conferred or worked with the mayor, and then the mayor was completely removed, and it was done with the commission about giving the contract.
Well, we can table it now, but I just think that when
Would
it
the
comes down to
contract take a
actual
simple majority or
execution of this
2/3?
job, that needs to be built in there.
So you could do it in the contract and not have to update the contract if you did it in the contract.
But if you don't, if you go to the mayor's recommendation not to do a contract, where do you build that leverage in? I mean, and it goes back to this job description, I think. Most finance directors that I've worked with over the many years report to the CFO or the CEO. And that's just normal. So I just actually think it's a strength of the role to make sure you know who you're reporting to.
Contract, the way to do it. And then,
I hear you, but I'm just saying.
No, there are other pros to the contract, and
well, you could put in the contract.
But I just want to make
Annual
sure, Mayor,
evaluation.
you're open to that concept on that.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, to a certain extent, that we do have to have that day-to-day operational accountability. And, you know, the county commission, they meet, their authority is once a month. You know, they do meet as committees and everything, but all of that ends on that third Monday or the commission night. So, taking this from a monthly decision to day-to-day operations, I think is important. And how we facilitate that, we can work that out.
You can have a dual report. I mean, you can have reports of the commission and the mayor or something. I mean, you could still have that connectability to the commission and also have mayor day-to-day. Right. But a lot of the org charts you see dotted lines to both.
so we don't have a work chart. We don't,
Well,
in the county.
functionally you do, because you have people reporting to people. So functionally, you may not have it written down, but you have an org chart.
So we can consider that when we look at other county contracts and come back. That'd be good. Back to what I was saying, I think that this is a little lengthy. If I was looking for a job, I wouldn't read this. There were some things that I did ask them to take out that seemed really simplistic. But, so I think Mr. Long was saying if we have something that we would like to clear up in this, I don't know, do y'all think it's all right? I think it's all right, but I would ask you to take a really strong look at it if you were to be applying for this job. How would you take that?
And then the yellow items.
It's 3 pages, one.
I think honestly, you could remove the language skill item C completely.
I think so too. I don't think that we need to say that, for the audience, it says the ability to read.
And then the computer skills, you could shorten it down to must be an expert in Excel, or remove it and do that in the interview.
So one item I'd like to bring up, and I've asked both legal and finance, we do not have programming for AI. If we had an AI program, we would run this through and it would come out a little bit more polished, and it might add some items or delete some items for us, but that is an item we do not have in the county.
I've got an AI program that I use, that I'd be more than happy to take this document and run it through.
That is something I've asked, and both finance and law do not have an AI program.
We can use the free version, the ChatGPT.
I've got one that I pay for that I use on my dissertation. So I actually have 2 that I use on my dissertation.
But the only problem is that we need to approve it right now.
Well, no, let's just say you need to
Approve
make
the
sure
form.
you determine what you want for the yellow things. You could approve the overall context after that for the mayor, and if he wants to bring some shortening or removals, approve him to do it, and then he can run it through the AI and send it back to him.
I would like that.
And then we can proof it.
That's fine.
Yeah, y'all can do whatever you want as long as it's ratified, the final's ratified, so you can tweak it all you want.
If you give him authority, then we can go ahead and publish it out before another meeting.
Because I think that's what it needs.
Give me the authority, but I can also send you the final version out, and you just initial it, say, hey, it's okay with us. I like that.
Ask it to evaluate it, pros and cons, and what we're missing.
But your yellow items do need to be addressed, what you wanna pay, where you want them to come back. And
Yeah,
what you
we
wanna
need to address that.
That AI program will do a compare, your old and new document, and it'll show the difference. So if you had that, I think that would be better.
So as far as, let's address the salary range that's on here.
165 to 195.
That was just numbers we just kinda tossed out. Everybody's still good with that? Cause I don't,
As a range, I think that's fine. I don't see
You know-
people at 165.
and as far as like some job, descriptions I read, they say salary appropriate for experience, reflecting on experience, where we pay more for more. Instead of, but if you don't put the range, they won't know if they're going for it. I don't know. But I do see them say, salary appropriate to experience, and
Yeah, I think we're gonna be bumping that, the bigger number.
I think
Yeah, up to the
And I don't want anybody not to apply because they want a bump.
Right.
So you want to go with just more vague language, such as, do we want to put a number? That's my question.
If you don't put something, people won't look at it. That's right.
There's that too.
If it's too low,
I
then
almost
say
think you
right
have
off.
to have some type of number in there.
Okay, is everybody good with the range that's on there?
I'm fine with it.
You wanna put, did you say put based on qualifications and experience? Somebody just mentioned that.
You can end that sentence with based on qualifications and experience.
Up to 195 based on qualifications and experience.
Oh, yeah.
Remove the word.
Yeah.
So if you got a top end candidate, they're gonna be looking for 195.
That's, they're gonna move that.
And they may come in and say, we want more, so that happens a lot.
Well, if they know that their retirement plan's going to be so much for them, so, that's a big bonus that we're not showing.
I thought it was a defined benefit plan,
Yeah.
defined benefit retirement plan.
They'll be happy with the amount. Okay, so as far as the deadline, we have decided to leave it open as we go down. And then as far as applicants to submit, do we want them to submit, what, we were talking about that. Do we want them to go to finance? Do we want them to go straight to you? Where do we want them to go?
We can just send them straight to me.
Okay?
Do you want a separate email or your current email?
Just send it current email. Yeah, that way, there's no need to create another email address. And if we do an open records request, it's gonna be easy to find anyway, if Dave does that.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is, somebody's gonna latch on to this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mr. Long and I were talking, we're expecting jobs of people.
Well, we'll probably, the first 50 will be everybody that hits it on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
No matter what their qualifications are.
So then,
So we'll filter those through.
let me move on to my next question. So we've talked about contract versus employment. Let's talk about background checks, because we've had, I've seen different things in different areas, and I would like to say I'd like to see us doing a background check.
We do on all finance people, we can say that.
We do it simple and we can do a more complex.
I think we
one,
should
which I
do,
think is-
because this is one of our more, high security areas. I think we need it in-depth.
I agree. Yeah.
So if we can get that figured out.
Subject to a background check should be in there. Comprehensive background check.
I
Or
work
put background in media credit, background media credit.
a full, we'll just call it as full as you can get.
So
Say a
I'll put their Facebook too.
Well, I
So
know,
who is gonna be
when I
responsible
was
for
looking
that?
at the postings, a lot of them say they'll
I
do
take
media
it.
background.
Yeah, I can facilitate with David since y'all already have a company that does background checks.
We do it through TBI.
Mhm.
TBI.
We do that.
I got a contact with TBI, we can start that process. Not a problem.
They just have to be fingerprinted to do an in-depth.
I want to put background and credit check.
Yes,
Who's gonna
credit.
evaluate the background check?
TBI.
No, once we get the background check, who is responsible for looking at the data?
Let's be clear on the background check, the TBI is the one gonna bring you back criminal stuff. The credit report that you pull with them show the credit. If you want one of these really comprehensive, we'll have to find a firm and do the media.
Let me ask you a question. Who's gonna look at it once we get the data? That's what I'm asking. Would that be you, Mayor?
It'll be attached to the application. Yeah.
And then we could all see what,
And then we'll filter those down to the qualified candidates.
And to me, that's the transparency piece of this, is number one, get the application, but if you find something on a background check that somebody doesn't think is that critical, and the mayor does, or vice versa, we need to know that as a committee, I think. And maybe we just look at the top two candidates that you up with.
Yeah, and it probably needs to be decided here who we pull background checks on. I think that should only be done on the final tier of candidates, not everybody that comes in.
Because, I mean, like we have 2 rounds, the second round definitely.
Yeah, you know, if you get into that final round, top 3 or 4 or whatever the number is, those are the ones you do background. You don't start on everyone that comes in and start filtering through.
And then, I'd just like to add a story. I work for a company, and they found after like 2 or 3 years of employment, the compliance director lied about her CPA.
Didn't ask for the license number.
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
the compliance director.
well, that's a contract induced by fraud. I mean, you can get out of that real quick.
But when they found out later, they found, well, you know this story. They later found her on the picture of Hawaiian News as a CPA director in Hawaii, like 10 years later. Yeah.
I remember,
You know, yeah, you know how. I mean, it is a thing. Yeah.
If you got their number and name, you can look online and see.
to get to that final
I'm just
tier
saying,
of
that everything
candidates,
needs
you're
to be
looking
looked
at
at.
qualifications. You don't know anything about their background.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about the background till, other than what the references say. And once we get down to those final ones, then we'll get
Then
deep.
you do the complete,
We'll get deep with it, yeah.
That's right up there with the law director, chief. I mean,
And maybe we need to do a retroactive here.
I'm okay with it.
All right, so are we good with item B?
So, with this, let's assume that we get a lot of response quickly. Would we like to have these are gonna go out on the 12th. We're gonna have this ready to, you're gonna have your AI go through and send us out some stuff. It's gonna go out on the 12th. We assume that everybody applies right away. Do we want to meet next month? I mean, that would only be 2 weeks after that. We could handle it at the next meeting and see where we're at. Or do we want?
As long as you got 3 days, you can get a meeting in, so.
We'll
I don't
consider
think
it.
See what the flow of the applications come and make that decision then.
If you want to protect the applicants, what you could do if the mayor brings them and somebody don't open records them, you could show the resume and cover the name or something, may help, I don't know. I don't know how you're gonna do it without the people that are applying getting somewhat nervous about applying if they've got a current job. It's gonna.
We can, when they
What do
come.
we have to release through the process?
If they do it open records, I think you probably.
So everything that
Every
comes in.
applicant, anytime?
Maybe unless Eric's got different people.
I mean, there has to be some confidentiality with them applying, at least through the process, maybe after the fact.
When we hired the director for the Resource Authority, I spoke to Open Records Council about this issue, and there was no privacy.
Yeah, I'm
To be
having
found.
some very difficult time finding some policies to help me. I've got a $15,000 document request sitting in my office right now that I don't know how we're gonna fulfill, because each one has to be redacted. So I don't know, I have no answer for you. I can look, but I have a suspicion that this is all gonna be public record.
Okay. Well, I think if Commissioner Boyd's already
And,
crossed that bridge.
you know, there may be new employees at Open Records, so it might be worth calling back and verifying again where we're at.
Okay, well, hopefully we can maintain some privacy as long as possible.
Not in government. Okay, so job posting and estimated cost. We'll move forward with it as we've discussed.
Well, I'll send the transfer to Budget Committee with this, with a request to take the money out of the vacation payout for finance director, or there's $39,000 there for an overlay.
Right.
I'm gonna be able to.
So you're gonna send it to budget. Mayor, you're gonna send this, application through, or this job listing through your AI and tidy it up. My opinion on it, it's a little lengthy, but
I'll do that.
We've
See.
received some through TGFOA, similar to this. That's why
they're, yeah.
There a lot of them look like that too.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe the computer skills will be involved, but they generally describe all that because if you don't.
We want to make sure we get
You're
it.
gonna have candidates that come in with, I don't know, something you absolutely don't want, you get 1,000 of them.
Yes.
You don't detail pretty good, you'll get 1,000 candidates just based on the salary.
Since today's discussion earlier was exempt versus non-exempt, is that spelled out in here?
Well, yeah, your policy says department heads are exempt now.
I mean, no, are you telling the applicant
I'm pretty
that
sure
we
it's
want them
on
to
there,
work?
that they should, that's a given on that job.
Well, I understand it's a given, but we're
I
talking
understand what
about,
you're saying. Your personnel policy alone would prohibit them at this point, but let's see. This salary range is an indicator, but we can add that, that's not an issue.
I'm just bringing it up,
For this exempt position.
just asking, clarifying.
Never hurts to be cautious, but your new personnel policy changes are gonna explicitly say this position is not.
You would hope.
But
I would hope.
Position that they're in, they would already.
if they come in, yeah, they should know better than that.
Okay. Are we, does anyone else have anything to say about item B?
Do you want it submitted to all of these organizations?
Oh, I would say yes. Mr. Ellis, what would you say? Agenda page 37 lists the organizations we would list this with.
Any additional you can think of?
I think we should send it to all of them.
Any additional anybody's aware of that we do?
If
I don't like sending it to Indeed, because that's where all the flow comes from, but,
We could pull that one, I mean.
yeah, Indeed or LinkedIn, but let's do it anyway.
I've told by most everyone I speak to that they think that LinkedIn is the place to get the jobs. That it is the heartbeat of job getting, and
Good.
I don't know.
Let's make sure it's on.
Is there any sites that anybody's aware of that we don't have listed? These are ones,
Is
is there
there
any additional besides these anybody thinks that we?
Is there a button that says finance directors, all counties, 95?
That government one that we found there is probably gonna be the closest.
Okay.
That one, that's why I had a question for Beth, is did we have to have HR software? Because a lot of them, I went out and looked and clicked on, they go to their HR application, she said we could post directly about that.
Okay.
That's one I noticed that has a lot of advertisements out that you can get to that site.
So I make a motion that we send it to all of these organizations. Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item, Mr. Finance Director, you'll discuss the tax sale.
Yes, ma'am, I had a question about what happens with the tax sale proceeds for, there's actually an attorney for the tax sale. It is our attorney, and he gets paid as our attorney, so, and I think Ms. Allison's passed this out. If you look at this in the general fund, I'll let her go pass it out. And there's two amounts in this line item, which it makes it around. The amount that has Mark Smith on it, that is the amount that comes back from the delinquent tax sales for the attorney's fees. And then the other one is for where the highway pays us for their share because of legal, because they're in a different, they got a different tax levy. So that's the amount that the office produces a year from the tax sales and doing the legal work for the highway department. So I've had that question from a couple of people, just to put that to rest. The law director does not get to keep the funds that are for the tax sales. They go back into his office to help pay for his office and his salary and his operating costs. So it's given all back to the county, which is a good setup for us because it helps offset some of the costs.
So Mark Smith here is the one that does the work.
No, he's the clerk of master and he's paying over the funds to us. The one that does the work is Steve and Eric does all the tax sale work. And there's a statute, there's an amount provided to the tax sale attorney, them serving that amount's provided, they take them out and get the part of the general fund to help cover the county office because they're county.
And that amount is determined by contract or by law or what statute on that?
Is this the way it's always been done in this county?
Yes, ma'am, and I think it's a good setup because otherwise you're going to be paying the tax attorneys and we would get the money back and they're doing the work. In the past, a lot of this was outsourced. Over the last couple of years since Eric's been here, they pulled it all back in the house, so they're actually doing it in-house too. So
Do you have visibility into this? Do you know what this person makes and see the documents flow.
No one makes anything.
Nobody
county.
makes anything.
No. The clerical master is the chancery, who's over chancery court.
Okay.
When they have the sale, he collects like the actual taxes after Eric does the sale, and he collects as part of it an attorney's fee for the tax sale. Eric and Steve do all work as their attorneys, they're everything tax attorneys, Eric here. So the amount he collects is deposited back over here, so he just deposits back over here.
I got you. Okay.
So we get to keep those funds because we do it in-house. In the past, we outsourced a lot of that, but it's been for the house, our in-house staff actually doing all the work.
How much were we paying for contractors in the past?
I don't remember. It varies based on the number that you have. This year it would have been much higher because we actually had a tax sale, but it varies based if you're having a tax sale or not. But remember this past, budget you cut in the law director's office, quite a bit amount out of contracted services. That's part of the reason. They're doing an in-house tax sale, and I cut a lot of that out.
So just to be clear, I've received how much money from this tax sale?
Well, it was all done personally.
Okay. And in addition to that, the tax sale itself from the chancery.
It brought in quite a bit of money.
$500,000, right? Or, $500,000.
I think it brought in probably more.
That was just the sale. There was probably another $500,000 prior to, after we filed the petition.
Once you guys filed, there was all these papers that came flying in because people get sold when they filed it, and then when the actual sale happened, there's a bunch of money came flying in.
Yeah.
This past year, we budgeted a certain amount for delinquent taxes. We had a tax sale, and it was.
And I got how much of that?
None's my understanding.
Oh, okay. I just want to be clear.
But I put this on because I was asked by Miss Boyd because she's heard some of the discussions is that the law director gets paid and his office gets to keep these fees, but that's not the case. So it's the rumor before it gets spread, because I think you were hearing that rumor, wasn't you, Miss Boyd?
I went to find the money.
Okay. She heard the rumor, she came and asked me where it's at, and it's
Gonna send him to jail, but.
It doesn't require a vote.
No, it's just for your information. If somebody comes and inquires of any of the committee members, you can 100% say the money's right here because we can see it coming in from Mark Smith.
Thank you for sharing.
So we have no old business, new business. Item 1, we're down to purchasing and bid issues.
Did we get, what are they called, plans of action on all of these?
Everybody's provided me a plan of action. These are not repetitive. There's things such as the sheriff's department got a bill from 2023-24 they wasn't aware of. One office didn't understand about exactly how the emergency purchases happen, so they've all addressed the issue. So I would recommend approving these, and then one of the discussions I think that should happen is in September, October, we have a small training class and try to come up with a cheat sheet, see if we can help some of this.
I make a motion to group and approve, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're not gonna adjourn, so don't go for that just quite yet. Any opposed? The motion to group and approve passes. With this scheduled training, are you taking on that responsibility?
What I'm gonna do right now, let me talk about between now and November. Couple things have to happen. We have to have our books closed by August 31st, so that's when, between now and August 31st, the majority of my time's gonna be. After that, my plans are to spend as much time as I can with Ms. Browning to do a knowledge pass. I can work on this, but it's gonna cut down on that time, and I can't work on it. The other is we've talked about bidding the budgeting software, but right now I'm talking to even the vendors.
Yes, I wanted to get to
It's
that.
not gonna meet January, so I think probably our best time is me to spend extra knowledge pass time to make sure Ms. Browning has all the information on this Excel sheet, the way she can make it work until next year when you have time to bid it. But I don't think you're gonna have enough time to bid it.
Can I tell the committee what that just means? That means that without Mr. Long, somebody's gonna have to work that spreadsheet and do y'all's budget. It doesn't, if that breaks, if we don't get a software package in. So just so everybody knows, I'm good.
I'm gonna spend the extra knowledge time with her, and that's my thinking.
Y'all doing it. We'll do a check on that.
This was my.
We can help her.
Make sure everybody understands. Ms. Browning is very capable. We all have like a very full load, so she hasn't seen some of the things. So I think I need to redistribute a lot of my time and her time, even if we get behind, to make sure she has all that information. Because the thing is, the sheet's very complex. She's dealt with some of it she hasn't. But I think that will give you time to get the new finance person in and time to choose and implement this software.
Okay.
Right now, I don't think you want to rush it to do a January budget, because you're already up in like,
I've been pushing for a while, but, okay, so you're gonna organize training for September for purchase orders.
yeah, because I'm gonna work with purchasing, and then
All
I'm
right.
gonna spend the majority of my time, because as I said, I've got a file with probably 50,000 records. Miss Browning or the other person probably don't want to go through them, so I'll spend a lot of time trying to delete crap that I probably shouldn't have kept and get in such a way that she can organize
Okay.
quickly and find all this
Thank you.
information.
That was my question, I just wanna know if you're organizing. Did you need to talk to the group or afterwards?
Question, finance department.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On one of my estimates, we owe the big thing is $2,300 for the repair of the vehicle. They're trying to close out by the end of the month. And I don't know what the status of that money is, so I can get payment made to them.
Let's put this way, they approved it now, so even if it runs you over budget, we're legally required to pay it.
Okay.
So all we need to do is send it down, we need to pay it, and then and I was looking at Beth, right now, as far as we can determine, you're not gonna run over by major category because you have vacant positions. But, the other thing Ken's talking about is there was a car he tore up. Beth was told he needed to be waiting for July and to do the budget. There was a mix-up. Ken got the repair done, so it came back into June. He didn't get a PO, so it was an error. He's gonna have to pay it, so we just need to go ahead and pay it.
So we get, long story short, we get paid this week.
Yeah, he just needs to send up, even if it runs the line item over, we just need to go ahead and pay it because it's due to the vendor. You did the work in June, so it's a June liability. We're just gonna have to.
Sounds like that's gonna happen without us voting on it, right?
No, you've already approved this,
Scott
Scott
Jenkins said he'd be willing to eat the 2% if I could pay him today if I could. So I
They don't pay card without.
And he would eat the 2%, and they've got 2% fee on the card.
He'll eat the 2%, I'd go ahead and recommend this P card. Get it off there, and make sure to let Mindy know, or what's the other way to do P card? Janine, that you did do that, that way we can push it back into this past year.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Have a good afternoon. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, second.
Have a good afternoon.